score. But how can they slow down Jason Tatum and the Celtics? We'll tell you in moments. And Baker Mayfield feels disrespected in Cleveland. We'll tell you why one of our analysts says the Cleveland quarterback doesn't know how the NFL works. And while Derek Carr got paid, Lamar Jackson is playing the long game. What's the better strategy? We'll get to that and a lot more as we say welcome to Get Up to You, presented by IHOP. So great that you could join us this morning. I'm Ryan Smith in for Mike Greenberg. Got a great show for you today. Diana Rossini, Tim Legler with us, ready to talk some football and some basketball. Also joining us too, Louis Riddick, Damian Woody, Brian Windhorst getting up with us too. And that makes a lot of sense because we're starting with the blowout of the night. And it's from the NBA. Hornets, Hawks facing each other in a play-in game. Winner faces the Cavs. Winner takes all in this one. First quarter, game tied at 10. Trae Young, Clint Capella with the slam. Atlanta fired up early, Tim.
Yeah, and if I asked you 2 weeks ago who played in the Eastern Conference Finals last year, I don't know if you would have remembered it was the Hawks. This is a team that's used to these pressure situations. Trae Young was picking them apart early with his passing.
Gallo going at it there. Hawks up big after the second, and then watch Young right here. 4 on him, gets it right into DeAndre Hunter.
Unreal vision. He is so patient with the late find. And again, right here, gets the switch, gets the mismatch, finally gets a three-pointer to go. You see the relief on Trae Young is starting to pull away.
Hawks up by 26 after 3 quarters. Now watch this little sequence right here. Miles Bridges loses the ball. Young dives for it, gets it, finds DeAndre Hunter, goes up, and he gets fouled and gets the bucket after a goaltending call. Now Bridges not happy about that. Look at him charging the refs, gets ejected, has to be held back at one point. I mean, this got a little bit nuts. Hawks, though, and watch this. This was the moment everybody's talking about. He throws the mouthpiece. It ends up hitting a fan. He ends up apologizing later, but Atlanta wins big, 132-103. Now, the Hawks survived to play another day, and now they're going to face the Cavs on Friday with the right to make the bracket and play top-seeded Miami Heat. So that gets interesting. The Brooklyn Nets already won their play-in game on Tuesday, and they officially will play the Celtics starting in Boston on Sunday. So let's bring back legs and bring in Wendy as well. And Wendy, first I got to get to this. What is the very latest you're hearing on Ben Simmons? You just got some news on that.
You know, Ryan, I am told that Ben Simmons is targeting games 4, 5, or 6 for making his Brooklyn Nets debut. I mean, I got to say that I was taken aback by being told that information, and my response was, is he even playing 5-on-5 yet? And the answer to that is no, but the hope is by the end of the week he can ramp up to that. So that is still some time. We're still talking about over 7 days. It's a big ask, but I have to say that really for 7-8 weeks now, I've heard nothing but pessimism on the Ben Simmons front, and that has switched dramatically in the last few days. So, I mean, right now I would say I have to report that it is possible we will see Ben Simmons in this series against the Celtics.
Unbelievable. I just want to say that is huge news. Keep in mind, he hasn't taken the court in almost a year. We remember what happened last year in Philly when he did take the court, and now he could be back for game 4 on a team he hasn't even played with yet. So, Legs, is it realistic to expect that Simmons might be a factor in this series?
First, I love what Wendy said, like 7-8 weeks of pessimism, and all of a sudden now he might play. And I wonder if that has something to do with the fact that they're in the opposite bracket from Philadelphia now. I'm just saying, Wendy, it might be a little bit of a relief to Ben Simmons. But here's the thing, will it be a factor? Definitely, because you're talking about a guy that's 6'10" with lateral quickness, great length. You've got to defend guys like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, and who knows, down the road, a Giannis Antetokounmpo, a Chris Middleton. So yeah, factor. Enough to sway the series? I don't think so, because here's the thing. He's not going to be much of a factor offensively at all. He is a playmaker, and he can create some pace. But for the most part, when a guy hasn't played in a year and he's really a non-shooter as it is, I don't think he's got a big role in their offense. If I'm Boston, if I'm Ime Udoka, I'm seriously considering if he steps on the floor at some point, I'm sending that guy to the line every single chance I get to see where he is at with that part of his game after a 10-month layoff from basketball. It could disrupt, actually, what the Nets do offensively, but there's no doubt if you can use him for 15 minutes to guard elite-level wing scorers, yeah, he's going to have a factor in this series. There's no question in my mind. I just don't know if it's going to be enough of a factor.
But you just said it. His job would be to guard elite-level scorers, right? Hadn't played it almost a year. We remember what happened last year. We remember the mental health issues. Wendy, this is what this makes me think. He hasn't played in nearly a year. And so if he doesn't guard that talent well and Tatum goes off for 40, have the Nets been then setting him up to fail?
I think the Nets kind of know that they're not going to have their best this year anyway. I think this trade was made with next year in mind. And if you've watched the Nets since Kyrie Irving has returned to be a full-time player, what we've basically seen is unrelenting offense and periods of total absent-minded defense. And that is really what is holding me and others back from honestly believing they can win 3 series. So if you enter Ben Simmons in that mix and he can plug that hole for 10, 12, 14 minutes and help them get through those stretches of bad defense, they have the formula for what could be a championship team. But he has only worn the Nets jersey for picture day. He has never even worn it for any sort of playing. So it's very hard for me to make an honest assessment of what we could see here.
Coming in possibly at a high-stakes moment. And just to say it again, Windy reporting that Ben Simmons could make his debut as early as Game 4 in this Celtics series. Unbelievable, the NBA right now. All right, guys, we're going to talk a lot more about this as we go, but I want to get to the NFL where Baker Mayfield has broken his silence for the first time since the Browns traded for Deshaun Watson. Mayfield spoke on the YNK podcast on his strained relationship with the team. Take a listen to what he had to say.
I feel disrespected, 100%, because I was told one thing and they completely did another. When I wasn't performing on the field, that's when it really started going downhill. Then when it started hindering my play, and that's when I started losing my own self-confidence and just losing myself. This past year was rough. I would love to show up to somebody's cubicle and just boo the shit out of them. Yeah. And watch them crumble.
Do you have any idea where you're going to land?
Oh, man. If this would have been about a week and a half ago, I would have said Indianapolis. Seattle, it'd probably be the most likely option. But even then, I'm ready for the next chapter.
Okay, first of all, I want to tell everybody at home, the dog is just fine. He's okay. You saw him spinning around on the couch and then he stopped. I was legitimately worried. But Woody, I also, if I'm a Cleveland Browns fan, I have to be worried about Baker's words. And if you're a Baker fan, you have to wonder, what do you make of what he's saying about how he feels disrespected by the Browns?
Well, listen, first of all, let me say the fact that I think Baker lacks some self-awareness here. The fact that, you're in a situation where Deshaun Watson has been acquired by the Cleveland Browns. There's so much uncertainty about your situation. You go on a podcast and you vent all this stuff in the podcast. It just lacks self-awareness as far as Baker Mayfield is concerned. But beyond that, I will say this. I think Baker Mayfield doesn't understand the business of football. When you come into this league, 9 times out of 10, they're looking to replace you right off the bat. And any former player can speak to this. Lewis can speak to this as well. Like, they're always looking to upgrade from you. And Baker even talked about it in the podcast, how he was up and down. Well, guess what? If the Cleveland Browns feel like they can find a more viable option, another player that can take them over the top, they're going to do that. So I don't understand why he would feel like the Cleveland Browns wouldn't do something like that.
Okay. Maybe he thought that he was the number 1 pick and he'd be insulated from some of that. But, Lewis, what do you make of these comments and how Cleveland has handled the situation?
Look, I think I have an understanding of why Baker is saying what he's saying, and I don't necessarily disagree with him. And I think that's because he knows that last year his performance was severely hindered by his non-throwing shoulder injury, by the harness he was wearing. We talked to him last year when we did their games in Pittsburgh, and how it really did make him miss some throws that you sat there and you're going, what the heck is he doing? But considering the fact that he couldn't rotate through on his throws, he couldn't throw the football accurately, and he was basically a walking mass unit in and of itself, for a large part of the season, there was no way that his performance was going to be what it needed to be in order for them to feel good heading into 2022. There was just no way. He should have probably shut it down, got his body taken care of, and then look forward to 2022. The thing that I think he's talking about is this: when you play that way, if a team is sitting there saying, hey, look, we know that you're hurt. We're not going to hold it against you. You give us our best chance to win. We want you to still go out there and try to play. And then turn around and go, hey, you weren't good enough. You weren't quite good enough. Your play fell off a cliff. We're going to look to try and get somebody else. That's the kind of disrespect he's talking about. That's the kind of thing that wouldn't surprise me at all that Cleveland did, because look at what they did. Now, look, I understand that Deshaun Watson, when we're just talking about the player on the field when we last saw him, is a better quarterback than Baker Mayfield and can do more things than Baker Mayfield can. But when you take into context the contract that they gave Deshaun, given the uncertainty surrounding his ultimate availability, would it really